Hey guys, what's going on? What's happening? We're here for episode 2 of the ship build tutorial, and I've got some good. Well, I've not got good news at all. I've just got bad news actually. Yesterday I recorded a whole episode of the ship build tutorial part 2, and well, I was finished, and then I clicked stop record, and then something strange happened because everything disappeared. And yeah, so I basically filled in the whole hull already and made the masts and explained everything, how and why and what, and it's all gone. So what we're gonna do today is I've broken down bits here so I can just show you the workflow a little bit, and then I'm just going to explain the rest to you, and that will be today's episode. So right here we've got the framework. I've remade them out of planks simply because it's just easier to look at than two different materials, and we're just going to fill this in. Just going to do a little fill the inner of this area. Just make it all square and ugly. It's all fine, it's all good. It's all part of the plan and part of our construction time. So just going to do this and do this thing. Bang, bang, boom, bang, boom, bang, bang. Bang, 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 bang. And then get this last bit of hair. Okay, so now we've got this looking nice and square. Might actually just fill this one in as well while we're at it. While I'm filling this in, how you guys' days going? How's your family? How's your wife? How's your kids? I hope everything's alright over there. Everything's gone fine over here. I mean, it's quite busy, got a lot of stuff to do, but you know, all in all, it's gone quite well. So there we have it. Filled this in, and okay. So what's wrong here? These ugly corners, 90-degree angles. We don't want that. That looks awful. We want it to look nice and curved, like this. And the reason that we want it to look nice and curved is because ships, is ships the plural of ship? Ships are supposed to stay afloat in the water, and something with curves is more, it seems more like a floatable material, using quotation marks there. Plus, you know, it's just really ugly having these square shapes, because it's, you know, it's not organic, and a ship is very much an organic type of structure, contrary to a house where it's a lot of it can be actually square. But in this case we want it to be round, so what we're going to do is just going to delete some blocks here and delete some here, and then we're just going to add some blocks here. So as you see, we've got this, and we want this to slope upwards slowly. So if we just go like this, fill this in, have a little look. Okay, that looks better, but there's something wrong here, because this is an inward curve, or rather it's like a really strange looking curve. We don't want that. We want a nice outward looking curve. So we're going to use what we talked about in episode 1 and slope them down. So we've got 3 here, make this 3, this 2, and then those 2 1, and then we've got a nice downward curve. The same we're going to be doing here, and just add that curve in. This one can be a bit smaller. fill that in, and there we go. Maybe actually do this. Got a nice looking curve, quite good looking, and then we've got this bottom bit that's not really to our liking. We've got this weird little square, so we're just going to do the same thing. Break a couple blocks, add a block here, so we've got the stair, so that this way if you've got this sharp edge, so we're just going to round that out and make it look nice and neat. Actually, I might bring this like this and then this like this. See how that looks. Looks a lot better than what we had before. Take this like that and just, let's actually just break this whole bottom row here. And then if we look down at the bottom, we've got the same kind of principle here. Here's the middle. That slopes down. This gets longer and longer and longer. And I think, can we make this day? Is my brightness, what's my brightness? Set it on bright completely. Put some torches down. This is basically the same as the opposite side, which is good. So yeah, that's how you go about filling in your hull. You just fill it in regularly, and then you add those curves in manually to make it look nice and smooth. So there. Actually, this doesn't look good. Add some of those guys. There we go. Moving on to the masts of the ship. Right here we've got the center mast, which is the longest of all the masts, and then we've got the front mast, the foremast, is slightly smaller than the center one, and then the back one is usually the smallest out of all of them. And in this particular case we have this diagonal sail going right here, and you can make these also slightly diagonal, give them a little nick, because usually they aren't 90 degree completely with the deck of the ship, but for we just made it straight here because it's simple and it doesn't really look bad. And then for these bits here we've gone for a diagonal look because there are very little instances where a ship will actually have its sails completely straight on a 90 degree angle with the main mast. So we've done that for both. This one is again slightly shorter than the one in the center mast, same for the top one, which is shorter than the bottom one and shorter than the center one. And this is just a diagonal mast, which is quite long because it fits quite a large sail. And then in the front here, I'm not exactly sure if this is a common thing for ships or if it's unique for galleons, but this is the front mast. The sail goes here. It's not very long. It's got reasonably wide, about the same as the top one of the center mast, and it sticks out a little bit. And if we're just looking at this front bit, I say a lot of "and," but that's just because there's a lot of things involved. I'm sorry, it might annoy some people. The front bit of the hull is usually a bit tricky because you can easily, if we look on this side, get this straight diagonal pattern going. So it requires basically a lot of experimenting on making it look curvy and, well, non-diagonal. So this created another straight line. This if we just put this on the ground here, this look is usually what you don't want, but when you get to these corners of the ships, eventually there are going to be some areas where that is going to look like that, and it's almost unavoidable. So we're just going to have to deal with it. Same as this, which we can actually fix a little bit if we just make this a bit longer and stretch this out a bit. We can actually decrease that quite a bit by just adding more blocks to it and create more of a shape in our boat. and that just makes for a slightly more natural look, which is exactly what we want in these types of builds. Just add this little nookie in here, this little nook, and it curves out a little bit at the top. Quite like how that looks. And as you can see, this is already a lot less intense as we had it before. This is still a bit like this, but well, we can take a few liberties here and there. So yeah, that's basically the mast. We've got the crow's nest at the center there. Sometimes they're at the top, but that's actually very rare for them to be at the top, I believe. At the back, you know, we do the same thing as in the center. We just curve it out, and as the curve of the ship goes up, the curve of the hull should go up with it. And as you can see here, there's 2, 4, and this just increases over time, except for here where it's just slightly more curvy. But that makes for that nice looking curve that goes out and goes back in again, and get it nice and fluent, which should actually be a bit more fluent. We should add a bit more blocks to this. It's because I had to tear it down for it, and the exact look of it doesn't really stick in my memory as much as when I first built it, the first episode. But yeah, so we get this look where now this is too far actually. Oh jeez. Ah jeez. Ah jeez. This basically just keeps getting bigger and bigger, which is not really accurate here. We might have to actually trim this down a little bit and make it go a bit more like this, so that is just slightly more curvy, and we get a nice fluent curve, outward curve instead of an inward curve going on the ship, which is nice. So yeah, and just for the decks, I just basically simply filled it in a little bit to have something to put the masts on. We're going to be detailing this in the next episode, and also detail the outside of the ship, because right now it's just a wooden blob basically. So thank you all very much for watching the second episode. As you can see, this isn't finished yet. Thank you very much for watching the second episode of Let's Build, how to build, tutorial, whatever, of a ship. Please leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Please leave a comment if you have some criticism or any questions. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time.